Hey, let's get started on our beautiful Hawaiian sunset painting. We're going to be using the Liquitex Basics brand paint, and I'm going to get started. Hey, I just wanted to share with you how to set up a table. This is, I've got my beginning paints out. I have a plate here. This is great for a paint party. Typically, I wouldn't give all these brushes to someone at a paint party, but if you're sitting down by yourself, yeah, go ahead and play with the different types of brushes. But part of taking care of your brushes is that I set up a jar with a little bit of pink soap, and so I will squeeze, I'll fill this jar about halfway, and I squeeze about half a teaspoon of just a little of pink soap in there, and then I keep reusing the same cup over and over again. So both these, you can tell, are nice and dirty, and the reason for that is that I'm not tempted to drink out of them that way. So I keep reusing these old cups as much as I can. Again, I only fill it about 2/3, halfway to 2/3 full of water. And then, so this is for washing colors out of your brush. This is for rinsing, or for sometimes when you have a brand new brush. I'll open this up. If I see, I think I'm gonna need scissors. Scissors need to be part of this setup. Nope. All right, brand new brushes usually come a little bit stiff so that they don't get ruined in packing in travel. And so they come with a little bit of a brush preservative on them. So I go ahead and wash them off, rinse them, pat them dry, and now this is ready to rock and roll. And also, it's a great idea when you're starting out with brushes, before you sit down and paint, to get them a little bit wet with water, pat them dry, and then load the paint onto your brush. You'll get better results that way, and it's also better for your brush. So a jar that holds your brushes upside down is helpful. Not necessary, but helpful. The paints, I like to have the paints that I am going to use for sure, and ones that I might think about using while I'm in the moment, so I don't have to get up and get them. I want them nice and within reach. A spritzer bottle of some sort. This is an old body spray bottle, but as you're painting, you'll have your paint on your palette, and you'll need to spritz it once in a while with water, and that keeps your paints from capping over. So about every 15 minutes, I say it's spritz o'clock. So I wanted to share with you why I use rags instead of paper towels. First of all, they clean off the brushes better than paper towels, so you use fewer items when you're painting. Paper towels are fine. If that's what you have, it's great. But I would just recommend that you take a look at your washcloths and see if there are some that can make the sacrifice to be your paint rag. And then I do wash these once in a while. I rinse the paint out of them best I can and hang them to dry, or I wash them by hand with soap and water. But they work so much better than paper towels for getting paint off the brushes and taking good care of your brushes. I'm going to protect my yellow area where the sun is the brightest. So I'm going to dip into a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow to make kind of like a lemon yellow. I'm going to make a lemon yellow, and then I'm going to figure out where the brightest part of the sun is and where I want the focal point on my painting to be. So I'm just going to slam in some sunshine right there. So that's going to be the focal point. And now I'm going to put a little bit of that bright yellow in where the water would be. So that's as easy as that. I'm just protecting that because it's really hard to go back and get that really vivid white. So I'm wanting to have this part be protected. Next, I'm going to work my way out. So as you see, I have no orange here, but I'm going to wash the white off my brush. To have the most vivid colors, we don't want to add white to them. I'm going to take a little bit of the red and a little bit of the yellow. And look, we just made a beautiful vivid orange. And it's not a bad thing when you're doing a sunset to leave it mixed on your brush. So I'm going to take this brilliant color out. And this will go along the horizon line. Now I'm noticing that I ran out of paint, and I may want to add a little bit of water to the paint to get it to flow off my brush nicer and go in the grooves of the canvas. So again, I think I have enough paint on my brush. I'm just going to dip into the water and let it go out a little ways. We'll see where I head from here. So now I have this little blendy area. The yellow is still wet, and I'm just wiggling my brush in between the two colors to kind of fade the harsh lines. I'm going to kind of streak in some orange in. So this is what's reflecting in the water. Super nice. I don't feel like I need to fill it in completely in the water because I'm going to get some other colors in the water. But that orange carries over here, and I'm streaking it for a reason. It'll become clear as we finish up the painting. So that was easy so far. I'm going to wash my brush. So this is where the brush soap, we have the brush soap in the jar, and then I have rinse water in a nasty old plastic cup that only gets used for rinse water, so I'm not tempted to drink out of it. I pat the brush and set it to, I was going to say set it to the side, but I think I'm going to continue using it. I choose the biggest flat brush for painting large areas, but as you can tell, it paints a nice large area pretty quickly, or I can turn it sideways and do lines that are pretty nice. So it's one of my favorite brushes. So I'm going to do the blue and work my way in. So I really like this. Primary blue is what it's called in the Liquitex Basics. So I like that a lot, and I'm just playing with it on my brush. When we're loading a flat brush, I touch the pile of paint and wiggle it so I get a little bit of paint on that side of the brush, and then I flip it, touch the side of the paint and wiggle it so both sides of the paint is loaded. And then when I want to fill in a large area of canvas, I do these X's. And what this does is it works the paint into the canvas. It's called scumbling, but so I ran out of paint. Loading my brush again. So it's a great way to get a nice offload the paint onto the canvas. And then if you don't like the scumbled look, which is great for clouds and for different things, I'm going to dip my brush in a little bit of water, not a lot, and I'm going to whisper my brush across the paint, and that smooths it out. So if I get too many lines that way, I can go this way. So these are just different techniques. I call it whispering because you're just barely touching the canvas. Barely touching it. So I don't really want the brown or this blue and the orange to mix, because the wet colors either layered on top of each other, they're going to turn into this yucky color. And usually sunsets are pretty bright and vivid. And so what I'm going to do is just almost use a little bit of water and clean off my brush, but I'm not trying not to touch the orange. The next color that I lay down, I want to blend with the blue, but I don't need to have a nice thick blue behind it. Oh, and guess what? We're going to do a little bit of blue in the water. This is where I'm streaking it in between. I'm not trying to cover up. All right, going to the edge. Okay, so now I'm ready to create like a transition color, and I'm going to make like a purple color. So I just created this purple color using the primary red and the primary blue, and I'm just going to rock the brush back and forth, and I'm creating It's hard to teach painting when your cat's crawling up your leg. So I'm creating purple clouds. Ooh. So I created this purple color with this blue and this primary red, which is gorgeous. But then when I dip back in for some more color, I dipped in straight up primary red, and it created this hot pink edge, and I think that is stunning. So I'm going to leave that there. A hot, hot pink edge. So now I'm going to add little hints of this color in my water. And that's why I felt like I didn't need to fill it in completely when I was doing any one of these colors, because we can just kind of use the water to almost clean off our brush. Okay, that's probably plenty right there. I need to add some of that deeper purple color though. rich, deep color. When I'm doing sunsets, I like to keep the concentration of color bright at the focal point, and then as I go out, the colors get deeper and richer. Okay, so it's pretty good. I'm gonna take the white away from the horizon line, kind of leave all right. All right, now I see a little bit more where I'm gonna darken up my clouds over that transition. Cool. So while you have these colors fresh, this is where I would wash my brush and do the orange around the outer edge. If you wanted to wrap the color around, then that's a great time to do that. I'm not down with wrapping right now, so I'm just gonna continue painting the front. So I did all of that work with my 1-inch flat. So I just washed it, and now I'm gonna put it in my jar. And I think I can do almost the rest of my painting with this. This is a filbert. In this set, it's the number 7 filbert. And now I'm gonna add a little bit more detail and interest in the sky, and then work my way out with more details. So for the brightest part of the sun, I'm going to go back into my white and kind of like zigzag in a little bit of extra brightness. Where the sun is the brightest, it's going to be white, and that's going to be the only white on the painting. That was hard thinking of that word. So now I want to create some more streaks and transitions between the yellow and the orange. So I'm going to dip into my yellow. It's not going to cover the orange very well. So I'm going to do the tiniest little bit of white, tiniest little bit of orange. So I'm kind of creating a little bit of a transition color, little bit of white, little bit of yellow, tiny little bit of orange, and it's just gonna, I can streak it in and zigzag it and create a more different shape. So okay, now I'm ready for figuring out where I want to put the foreground. So I'm going to use this black. It's very, very rare that I use straight up black for any landscape. and because it's kind of not a supernatural color, it's the absence of light. And so I'm going to add a little bit of this blue in with the black, and a little bit of the red. So it's really going to be like a really, really dark purple. And it may not show that it's there, but I know it makes me feel better. I'm going to dip into a little bit of water. I want the paint to flow off my brush. So now I get to decide where I'm going to put my happy little palm trees. Right there. So with my filbert brush, it is a flat brush, so I just turned it sideways and did this curved line down. Now I'm going to do a couple more. And I think that's about good. So, and I need the paint to flow off my brush, so I keep dipping it into the water and mixing it with the paint that's on my palette here. Now I'm going to decide palm fronds. I'm just using the tip of my brush. Well, I'm going to make a silly looking starfish. If you try to make them look too perfect, they don't look real. So that's groovy, man, groovy. So what did I do? 7, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, close enough. All right, normally I do odd numbers. Washing my brush. Oh shoot, I didn't need to wash my brush so soon. But since we washed it, I'll get out my big one again, and I'm gonna get it a little bit wet with the black that we mixed with the blue and the red. And I'm gonna create the edge of the beach. In my world, it's rocky, and maybe it's black sand, I don't know. Not straight lines for sure. Okay, now lastly, I'm going to wash this brush and get out one of my little detail brushes, a little round brush, and we're going to thin down the black color even more. And so our little brushes come with a little cover on them, and you just pull it off. I think it's pretty dangerous to try to reuse them because they to get it back over the fronds, it takes a very long time and a lot of patience and skill to get it back over without breaking the hairs of the brush. So I just throw these away. I don't reuse them. And brand new brushes need to be woken up with a little bit of water. Pat it. Actually, I don't need to pat it. I can bring that water over to here because I want it to be liquidy like ink. It seems like the smaller the brush you use, the more liquidy the paint needs to be for it to flow nicely off the brush. So I created like the spines of the palm trees. So let me show you. I'm just going to use the very tip of my little brush, and if the paint is liquidy, it makes nice little Our palm fronds.
I just let this camera roll the whole thing. It's going to paint it. No, it's not, because you'll be at the same time when you cut. Okay, stack them, right? You started it at the exact same time? No. Once you get it in time, you stack them. Okay. Give me a piece of tape. It'll be fun. That's my girl. Crazy cat. This is where I will probably time lapse it. I can speed it up. You want me to stop this one now? You got 22 minutes now. This is pretty good.
I like doing the palm fronds kind of like every which way because it seems like the wind is always blowing in Hawaii. So, and something I just thought of after I just tried doing it wrong. The palm fronds, the brush stroke is touching by the spine of the palm, the back of the center. I don't know what it's called, the spine of it. And touch, drag, and pull up. So as you're pulling away from the canvas, it goes into a little point and looks more real. That is really hard to replicate if I start outside in the air and try to match it up, because it always seems to get bigger towards the end. When I start, the reason it gets smaller is when I lift up away from the canvas. So it's just better to start with your brush at the palm frond. Is that the right word? Start at the spine of the palm frond. And I'll make a couple of them go crazy which ways because of the wind. Another mistake often people do is not make it crazy enough in the center. They don't add enough, because remember, we don't just want the profile. We recognize that there's palm fronds coming out towards us, and they're gonna fill it in irregularly in the front. So don't feel like it's just a little, it's sparse and everything's connected here with just lines. It's kind of messy, and I think they look better that way. So that's a pretty quick, easy painting. Bright, colorful, people love it. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to test out the paints and feel like, yeah, I painted that. How cool is that? So there you have it. We did a beautiful painting of a Hawaiian sunset with the Liquitex Basics paint. If you have any questions, I would love it if you messaged me. I'd be happy to answer those questions and help you along the path of your painting. I think painting is a great way to relax, enjoy some friendships, self-improvement. All of those things come along with learning how to paint. So for me, it's my source of relaxation and fun and creation, and I hope that it is for you too. Enjoy.